All right, welcome back, YouTube. This is Eric at Go H4M YouTube channel with Ryan Root at goh4m.com. TRT HRT Clinic. Tonight we have with us a special guest, Bill Simpson, relationship expert. He's also a relationship coach for men. We're going to get into several things tonight. Actually, we're going to always be doing the on-topic Q&As, and then of course the last segment I will give you guys a heads up ahead of time. So if you want to drop the open Q&A questions, you can do that, and then we'll just flag those for you. But of course, you can flag or drop those at any time during the show, and we will flag those for you in case you got to dip out. They'll get answered, and then you'll see them in the timestamps. Yeah, I'm not sure what that was, but that's all good. It was one of those special sound effects, right? So yeah, thank you, Bill, for coming on tonight. I really appreciate it. You were a morning show DJ. I'd like to just get a little brief introduction of you before we get into the real show rolling on here and talk to the chat and say hi to Ryan. Can you tell me a little bit about your radio show? Because I was actually a DJ for 22 years, and I found that pretty awesome.
Yeah, man. I was in radio for 35 years. I'm based in Philadelphia right now. For the past since 1987, I came up here to do a morning show. It was called the Carter and Sanborn Show. I had a radio partner, and we lasted about 12 years. We survived 64 competitors, so it was a pretty good run for us, and we had a lot of fun doing it.
Nice. And then at that, we'll get more into your wellness journey and all that
Sure.
earlier on afterwards. But yeah, I just wanted to quickly introduce you here to the audience. Thank you, everybody, by the way, for showing up here early tonight. Ryan, how you been, brother?
Good. Yeah, good. I'm excited about this show today. This means a lot to me. Mainly because I talk about helping people, and that is that's the driver of the passion behind all this, is helping people. But I've throughout my whole career, one of the main things that sticks and that really drives the largest dose response, dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin, and endorphins, is when I see people's relationships and marriages get better, and with that also the relationship with the kids, because now the whole families get better. And I've seen this so much that I've been talking about this for a long time. And now when we can, and by the way, Eric, you prepared some fantastic Reddit posts. Like, these are great. Like, Eric,
You actually have a post in one of them. You do.
Oh, I do. Oh,
yeah. No. I was reading through the comments, and it was you.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
See, I didn't even know. But Eric and I, we work so hard, we don't get a chance to really talk anymore. And Eric does a great job at preparing these outlines for these shows. And I was preparing for the show and going over some things. I'm like, holy cow, these posts are just fantastic. Like, it just exemplifies exactly what we're talking about. And
Right.
And not only just are we benefiting, dramatically improving the life of one person, but a couple, and by extension, entire families, right? So this means a lot to me, and I see this a lot. Like, I've been seeing it my whole career, and I talk about it, and this really just exemplifies it. So this is a great show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
It's great having Bill here. Him and I did a podcast. I was on his show, and Bill was so great. Bill, I mean, you led me through that. A podcast is, obviously significantly better with a good host, right? And the way you hosted that, you let it in through the entire interesting conversation. And I really had a good time on your podcast, which is what, made me say, we got to get Bill on our show, because there's some synergy here. So
I appreciate that. I appreciate that feedback. That means a lot. And that's my intent when I do the show. It's to make it more organic, just a couple of guys having a conversation, and that tends to come across more believable, and doesn't feel staged and corny and all that. It's just real.
It is, yeah, and I agree. I've done a lot of podcasts at this point, and the hosts that can really lead it, right, and they lead it in interesting directions, and they do interject and they, you know, and ask questions and clarifying things and really and help lead the conversation in interesting directions. That's just a big part of it. And Bill, you did a great job with that.
Thank
So
you.
like yeah, on this episode, Eric, we can also post our the podcast that we did, that Bill and I did, and we'll post that too so people can listen to it. It was really good.
Oh yeah. I actually do have his YouTube channel up, so we can do that, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Bill, thanks again. Ryan did a great introduction there. Because I wanted to at least go ahead and now pass it off to you, Bill, for a little bit as we explain what it is exactly that you do. Now, I understand that, and you could explain this in your own words to the audience, that a long time ago you got into a health and longevity type journey, and you were actually on HRT for some time. I'm going to go ahead here and pull up your website. And why don't you just tell us a bit about what you do here? Because I see you got coaching, divorce, podcast, blog, about you're an online relationship coaching for men.
Yep.
And
yeah, man. Well, I'll start with my HRT journey. Back when I was on the radio, even though we were having a lot of fun and it was, you know, a funny morning show. We did a lot of comedy, did a lot of skits and stuff, and just made people laugh. There was a lot of stress around that, you know, ratings. You know, I'd mentioned earlier that we survived 64 competitors, you know, and it's all about the ratings. And if your ratings suck, they get rid of you. So we had a lot of pressure on us. And that created a lot of anxiety in me, trying to, you know, outdo each performance, trying to be better. And so I sought out ways to, you know, get better. And part of that was going to some therapy. I was into the martial arts. I did Tai Chi, Qigong, meditation, all kinds of things, to where I became so impassioned by it that I decided to do all these trainings to become a practitioner. While I was on the radio making really good money, it was just something I was doing on the side as a hobby. And as part of that, trying to improve my health and maximize my health, I was turned on to a doctor out in California. I was still in Philadelphia at the time. And he was doing this hormone replacement therapy and did the whole workup and just going for optimal levels, not really trying to bulk up or anything, but just trying to be optimal with my health. And it was absolutely amazing what it did for me. And my energy was there. I felt great. This was in the early 2000s. Now I think about it, and it was just a good timing for me. And as time went on, I lost that big paying morning show job. Took a zero off my salary, and it kind of impacted things I could spend money on. And I was feeling great. I was taking care of myself, eating right, and decided, okay, well, I'll put this on the back burner. And never got back on it, but I was doing the raw foods diet. And the doctor that was working with the doctor out in California was here in Philadelphia. And I went to see him after I stopped taking the hormones. And I guess it's probably been a month or so, maybe a little bit longer. And I wanted to see where I was. And he saw my results and was like, damn, what do you eat for breakfast? Because, you know, it was like optimal health. But I was down to like, you know, no weight at all. I mean, I'm small enough as it is. And I'd lost like 30 pounds and I'd look like somebody needed to make a quilt for me. You know, I mean, I just didn't look great, but I felt amazing. And so I just kind of stayed with that. And, you know, subsequently, after talking with Ryan, I'm really curious about this, and my wife is too. So we're certainly considering going that way, but we can talk about that later.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's kind of my experience with HRT. And then, you know, through that, all the trainings I did, and then, you know, eventually I ended up opening up my own private practice, still doing radio, but not the intense morning show, which gave me time to do my private practice. And then I went out to California on a sabbatical with my wife. We were going to do business together, and we figured out what we were going to do. And thing was, this money that we were supposed to be getting didn't come through. So we were stuck out in Northern California and no money really. So we were looking for jobs, and you would think California, they would, you know, they would welcome what I do,
Right.
but they paid a fraction of the price. I do massage and body work, for example, and
Mhm.
here in Philly, I charge $150 for a massage. Out there, it was $60, and I got a percentage of that. So you can see. And then weed was the economy there. This is like Humboldt County, and it was weird economic dynamic. I couldn't find a gig to save my life. And so I looked back east, and Philadelphia had this job at this major health clinic. And I'd never seen my resume, my holistic health resume, in a job description. And there it was. And I was doing all the things that I was doing in my private practice. It was right there on the job description. Got the gig, and I've been there for 10 years. And during the course of that, most of my patients were women,
Mm-hmm.
about 80%. And I would hear the same thing, over and over again about the men they love in their lives, but they just weren't doing right, And I'm like, that's something I think I could work with. I say like, well, what if he said this? And she'd be like, oh, that would make all the difference in the world. So I'm like, okay, this is an easy fix. I can help these guys out here. And then the other part of it is I had been through 3 divorces in my life.
Right.
And being in the entertainment industry and had a lot of temptation and,
Oh, I could imagine. Yeah.
it was easy. And I had overlapped a lot of my relationships because I had, which I found out later, was an abandonment issue because I lost my mom at a young age. She gave custody to my father, and then 5 years later, she had died of a heart attack. So I was searching for, someone that would stay with me. And if I felt like they were going to leave, I had to leave first. So I would always have somebody on hand overlapping my relationships. And that went all the way up into my first marriage, through my first marriage, and I stopped after my second marriage. But I just, had to learn the hard way of how to find what I have now is a thriving relationship with my wife. We've been together for 17 years now, and it just keeps getting stronger and stronger. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to go ahead and now pull up your website here. I'm sorry, not your website, your YouTube channel. Let's take a look here, guys. Of course, all these links will be in the description box. This here is Bill Simpson, and if you want to get to his website, you could just click here, and you'll see that in the description is the website. Let's take a look at the podcast because I do think that the latest one.
You got to go back to the videos. There we go.
Yeah, right here. It looks like this one here would be the one with Ryan.
Yeah.
Now, let's make sure that we got this sharing properly. Is that echoing on your side, guys? Oh, I know why. Because I got to share with audio.
And I'll just, fill in here a little bit to say, when I work with men at the health clinic, it's really letting them know that, what they're going through is not their fault. It's how we're conditioned as men. And oftentimes I've been accused of being a feminized man. And it's not about being a feminized man. It's just about adding to our masculinity these qualities of being vulnerable and having empathy and learning some communication skills, things like that, which are relatively easy fixes if you're open to it, and it makes all the difference in the world in your relationship. So, I'm here to support men and in turn, if I can help men be better in relationship, and what they can help women in the relationship and how women can help them. I tell the women in my practice to say, look, you got to give this guy some grace. He's been, this is how he's been brought up. This is what men are taught to do. And it's not going to change overnight. And that we got to give each other grace. And as long as we're trying, you can't ask for much more than that. Right?
Yep, exactly. Let me try to pull this up again here and see if this will play for us. Okay. Now, this here is actually a audio-only radio podcast, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And one of the
And
most
they've got no-
unconventional voices in the hormone
Yeah, I
optimization
don't think it's
space.
gonna
Ryan's
play for me
amazing
here. I was
story
having
is one
issues
of
with the audio
ambition.
earlier. But this link here, everybody, will be in the description box. This is with Ryan Root, of course, and Bill Simpson on a radio podcast. That's actually how they met, as Ryan had explained earlier. So that's fantastic, Bill. I also wanted to make a point here that when you got onto your health and wellness journey, you were actually never quote unquote hypogonadal, correct?
Correct.
So you were just looking to optimize the way you felt.
Mhm.
This was quite some time ago. I remember you telling me on the call that you didn't actually remember the numbers that you had for total test and all that. But
No, I don't.
how did you feel once you got on the testosterone and any other hormones that you may have implemented?
Well, from what I remember, it was kind of a gradual shift. And what really struck me was I remember when I ran out of, I was using testosterone cream, and I'd run out, and I had to get this stuff shipped from California, and it always took a while to get to me. And I had run out. I was waiting for it, and I noticed when I didn't have it. That's where I noticed the biggest change. Was like, damn, I feel this, you know. And so it was showing me that, you know, I was on this good high level of energy and focus and all the things I needed. And when I didn't have it, I noticed the difference. So
Right.
That's interesting. Yeah, you mentioned about talking to me later, Bill. You wouldn't be the first host of a podcast that I've been on that is now being treated by our company. So I can think of off the top of my head 5 other podcasts I've been on where the hosts are now being treated by our company. So
That's awesome.
we can certainly help you and your wife. And once we go over some of these posts and everything, and we go all this information about what it's done for other people in their relationships,
cool.
maybe you and your wife may flock to us for treatment.
Yeah, man.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, so we're going to say hi to what's up, everybody here in the chat. And then we do have another Medium article that Ryan's going to be going over here shortly, and a few talking points. Then we're going to get into a lot of fun with some Reddit posts. But before we move on, I actually wanted to ask Bill here, as far as his relationships and that he has had over the years, was hormone optimization ever something that you would bring up with your significant other as to something that they may want to consider, or was this more like what you were doing for yourself, or were you trying to help educate? Like, I also kind of want to know, like, what exactly is it when somebody hires you up as a relationship coach? Like, what methods do you teach to them so that it helps them if you're not really pushing hormones or health and longevity?
Yeah. Your first question about HRT and relationship. At the time, I was dating someone, and a friend of hers actually asked me, and I mentioned this in the podcast with Ryan, like, now that you're on this testosterone, are you going to be like mean and violent? And, you know, like, you're such a nice guy, you know, what the hell?
Yeah.
And the woman I was dating at the time, she didn't, you know, she knew that I was going for health and, you know,
Yeah.
pretty much supported, but it wasn't anything that she was doing at the time.
Right.
And, you know, go ahead. You want to say something, Ryan?
Just, you know, you and I discussed this on your show, but that's one of the major stigmas that we have to dispel, right? Is that you know, the whole idea of roid rage, or testosterone is going to make you angry, and it's actually quite the opposite. And we're actually going to learn that, and in a lot of the posts, like, where people talk about how, and we see it all the time, right? Like, testosterone actually makes people less irritable, and you actually feel you have a better sense of well-being, and many people are calmer.
Yeah.
And just their moods improve, their irritability improves. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and so the answer to your second question, you know, I see men come to me for different reasons. A lot of times it's men who have failed in relationships, or at least see themselves as failing in relationship, and they want to do better, or they're just dying in their current relationship and want to do better. And my whole approach is I'm not here to save your relationship.
Right.
I'm here to save you as an individual.
Mm.
And if I can save you and you feel good about you and you take your best self to that relationship, maybe learn some skills, learn some things that I can teach you and coach you, you know, that's the best you can do. And, you know, if that person doesn't, you know, get on board, then at least you've done your best and you go ahead and do your thing and bring that to your next relationship.
Mhm.
But to think you're going to, you know, get out of one and then just go jump into another, because that's what I did. Like I said, I overlapped since I was in high school. I just always had somebody. I could never be alone. And
Yeah.
it wasn't until my second marriage where I had this 27-room house, man, and we had 4 kids and 1 kid together. And one night they all left, and I was alone, man, in my living room, no furniture, with my dog, and I was just bawling because for
Oh,
the first time in my life, I was alone. I didn't have someone on the side. I didn't have someone to go to. And
right.
that's where it all changed for me, because I had to be okay with me. I had to learn to, you know, to love me, right? And do the best for me so I could take my best self to my next relationship.
I think that's great advice. One of some of the best advice I ever got from a friend when I was younger, who I was just kind of in a spiral in life. And he said, you know, it always stuck with me for some reason. But he said, you know, I think a relationship ended very poorly and I just didn't know what to do. And he said, why don't you just take some time and work on yourself for a little while?
Yeah.
Right.
It always stuck with me. And at the time, it was just like almost like, I don't know, like a cliched information that was almost, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. It almost was slightly insulting, right? Because I mean, he was right though. I needed to work on myself, but
But what does that mean? You know, it's
yeah.
just,
And what does that mean? It's almost like ambiguous, right? But it always stuck with me, and I did it, and I actually sat there, you know, not in a relationship, and I really did start to work on myself. I think that was a time when I actually went back to college. I took a hiatus from college. I went back to college. I did really well and just really just focused on becoming a better person and becoming a, you know, just doing better for myself. And then of course then you're more attractive to other people.
absolutely. And also, you know, it also goes back to how we've been raised and if there's been any trauma in your life. You know, as I mentioned, my trauma was my mom, you know, leaving. Well, my parents got divorced at 6. I lived with her for 2 years. She gave custody to my dad, and my mom was a piece of work, man. I mean, she could be the best mom on the planet, very nurturing and loving, and then, no lie, have glass on a plate, and this is your dinner. I mean, that's the extreme. I mean, it was crazy.
Oh, wow.
And so, in a way, it was a blessing, you know, that she gave custody to my dad. And then yet 5 years later, she dies. I didn't see her in between. And so that impacted my future relationships because I didn't want to be abandoned. And my father was a functional alcoholic, so he wasn't really present for me emotionally. I had a stepmom, and she was pretty grounding, but you know, it's a rough journey. So if you've been through any kind of, you know, trauma in your early ages, you're going to take that trauma to your relationship at some level.
Absolutely.
That's why it's important to, you know, you don't have to dig all deep into it, but to at least be aware that this is impacting my relationship.
Very, very interesting. Yeah. Bodybuilding here. This is Gary. He's been on our podcast, on the show a few times, but he's a lawyer and he's actually done divorce, you know, law, and he's a judge. So he does a lot of divorces in court. So he actually has some good information about, okay, this is what typically happens. He sees it all the time. He says, this is what happens in divorces, and these are the reasons that the people give. So he's got some great information, including, like, Gary, type in here, I'm pretty sure you say most divorces are due to financial reasons, right? Like, I think he'll say that, but I think he said that before. Like, so it is interesting. Especially when you have data like that, when you have just pure data, like this is the reason most people give for divorces.
Yeah, we're actually I pulled something up. We're gonna look at it later on tonight when we get into some of these Reddit posts and whatnot. And I've been saying this for a long time. I mean, it's to me, it's not a coincidence that the majority of divorces take place in the 40s. Okay. And that's typically when
True.
people's hormones start falling off the cliff. And when we go ahead and read some of these posts, which I know Ryan has read, and I actually, I had my wife read some of these with me, and she even admitted to some of these things. Like, yeah, when I was, I was like, she's like, yeah, once I started hormones, I like immediately started becoming more attracted to you and all this, and things that were annoying and shit like that. And we're gonna get into those Reddit posts. A ton of women say the same thing, like they couldn't stand their husbands, and all of a sudden they were like head over heels in love with them again. Uh, so yeah, we'll get into that a little bit later. I wanted to say hi to the chat
Yeah, let's say
before we carry on here, and then of course we're going to get into the Medium article and a few other talking points. Then we're going to have fun with Reddit. All right, guys. So of course we got member Boston Sean making it every week. He's saying, "What's doing H4M? What's doing, my friend? Good to see you." Hey, Ryan Parsons. 762. I'm loving the new avatar. Yo, good to see you, my friend. All right, guess who's here? No Waker. He's going to be here for next week's show on the immunoassay and the LCMS labs. So we're actually scheduled for a phone call, I believe, this evening, if I remember the email correctly. So I look forward to talking to you, No Waker. As long as we don't go too late tonight, anyhow. Thanatos with the wrench. What up, brother? Evening, folks. He says you guys locked in for some sexual healing tips. Can't we all use some sexual healing tips? Right. That's why we got Bill here, because he's here to help us out.
I don't know about
Zionic. Member Zionic. Good to see you, Eric and Ryan. Welcome, Bill. Solid reminder that you can work out bad hormones in the gym or at home. Absolutely. Let's see who else we got here. It looks like new member in the chat here, being on a third shift and doing TRT for 8 months. It has made me a better single father. Ryan, how many times have you said this?
It's a great quote. And honestly, I hear it a lot. Like one of the things I've always said this, and I probably said this on your podcast too, Bill. One of the main things I've heard, and I've just heard it so much, is people, email me and they thank me. They say, "Thank you for making me a better husband or wife to my spouse. Thank you for making me a better father or mother to my children, and thank you for making me a better supporter of my family." So, as Al1X is saying here, he's become a better father, and I see that a lot. I mean, it makes sense when you start to really break it down. Right? You have more energy. It's dopaminergic, so now you have better confidence and ambition and motivation to go do better in life and to go do things and to play with your kids more. You don't have to come home and take a nap because you're not fatigued and lethargic anymore. I just hear it a lot. It's one of the main things I hear, which again drives my passion to do this. When you see that you're helping people and you're helping entire families, it's just drives a passion.
Absolutely. We got Amy with us. Hey, Amy, good to see you. She's late, but she made it. Of course, you always make it. You're a diehard and a true friend. I'm really looking forward to this discussion. Well, we're having it right now. No Waker. I don't know if I already mentioned you, but we are going to see you next week. Female HRT, have you in your clinical experience? Oh, that's a question for later. Let me just flag that. We don't want to read it now. Come on. And then we got Gary here from Bodybuilding Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's 3 more days than I work out. So we're doing all right, brother. I'm glad that you made it out tonight. Who else we got? Anybody? Let's see. Yeah, it looks like unless I already said Ryan Parsons. Yeah, I did say Ryan Parsons because I remember I commented on that avatar. All right, guys, thank you all for coming out. We are going to now go ahead and get into the media article of this week that is going to be put up here on the stage. And the title of this is "The Dawn of a New Era: Longevity Trend Shaping 2026 and Beyond."
So this will also answer this question from a Thanatos. We're going to kind of talk about the next wave of gene testing.
Oh, great.
That'll be it. Like this article answers this. So, and I think we kind of went over this last week, but this article really highlights exactly what we're doing here as far as really diving into customization and personalization. And I know we say that a lot, and we've always talked about, we can't do cookie cutter protocols and how hormone replacement therapy has to be customized. And we say that, and it's kind of become this, I don't know, just kind of term that we throw around. But when we talk about, okay, and I think Thanatos' question is good. When we talk about, okay, what's the genetic testing going to do for us? When we can take this genetic testing, when we can learn about your individual, single nucleotide polymorphisms, or essentially it's just like everybody, we talk about everybody's different, right? And everybody's genes are different. Well, this starts to daylight and highlight exactly how you're different and exactly what each of those genetic differences mean for you. And we can really start to isolate those differences and really dive deep into what you need to do, what your individual we need to do according to your individual genetics. So what we're doing, and No Acre would know about this, is we had SG Analytics, the largest AI developing company in the world. They're developing a machine learning device for us to we've already fed hundreds of thousands and in some cases millions of data points. We're feeding all this data so that now when we enter somebody's genetic test, when we enter their blood work, when we enter their personal history, now it will just, it can analyze this so much better and so much faster than we could if even myself and our chief medical officer go over everybody's data. It will be able to do this way better than we can do it. But it will, and our chief medical officer and myself are also training this machine to how we do protocols and what's been most successful. So when we can do this, we can come up with just really super ultra customized protocols as far as not just your hormones, but also supplements, also everything to do with your metabolism and just your unique, what will yield the best results for you as an individual, right? And we can just do this on a level that no one else is doing it. I had something else to say, now I can't remember. But anyways, yeah, so I mean, that's the next wave. This is the next wave of what we're doing. We'll be able to really identify you and
Right.
optimize you. And nobody else is doing this to the level that we're doing it. Oh yeah, that's what I wanted to say. So then after we start this, the next thing to do is SG Analytics is also building us a dashboard to be able to upload all of the data from your Apple Watch or your Oura Ring or whatever you're using to collect real-time data. So now every night when the data comes in, we can wrap this all up and run it back through this AI analytic that we have, and be able to give you real-time changes and real-time alterations and adjustments to your protocol, so that almost on a daily basis we can say, okay, it looked like we saw this last night. Here's a change to really start to adjust to that, and that for sure nobody is even close to being able to do that like we're going to be able to do it.
All right. Fantastic. Yeah, that's the gene testing. All right. They've actually been going out. They've been coming in and being shipped out,
yeah.
correct?
Someone said they got theirs. I think it was Boston.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, Boston Shun said he got his. Oh, right here.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What's you got here? Can someone join the Apex membership for extra guidance, pay for 6 months, and then after 6 months go back down to the custom membership? He's asking.
I don't see why you couldn't do that. Yeah, I don't see why you couldn't do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a certain point, depending, like, we kind of created the program. So if you're doing like testosterone and a few other things, like maybe a peptide you like to do or something, then it only makes sense to get on the Apex, because you get discounts on those peptides or those adjunct, or on supplements. If you're on a few different supplements, you get discounts on those. So there's a point when it only makes sense to get on the extra programs, because you're just getting discounts and it's actually a better price.
Can't beat that with a bat. All right. So moving along here. As soon as I pull this back up. There we go. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get into the Evergreen discussion here. Ryan, we're going to have you expand on this. Now, we want to talk about these three today specifically, which is flexible lab options. All right. People, they can choose to accelerate the process by using their current labs. They can get a script for labs. They can use their own labs or third-party labs. Ryan, please go ahead and explain what exactly is a third party lab for people that may not know.
Sure. So, so when you I mean, first of all, like there's a lot of companies that the old paradigm kind of had people try to, or the companies try to make money on the labs, right? So like the HRT companies would say, here, you have to get our labs. This is the ones we want, and they'd mark it up, and then you'd make money on them, right? So what, they don't all do that anymore. We're really about, we're not trying to make money on any labs. We don't mark up any labs. It just, any labs that we facilitate for you just come at cost, right? So that's not what we're trying to make money on. We just want to help you, right? So if you have labs, we'll take them. There's certain sets that we need. So if you don't have everything we need, we might have to help you get a few of the extra stuff that we need. But if you have them and you have what we need, then we'll just take them and we'll process you that way. Third-party labs work well. Here's another problem with the entire HRT landscape, or with the entire medical landscape. What am I talking about? You need a doctor to prescribe labs for you, right? So this means that the current medical situation and the regulations in the United States, the leaders of the free world, they demand that you have a doctor in order to analyze what's in your own body. You own this blood, it's yours. You pump it around in your blood. In order to analyze what's in there, you need a doctor's prescription, which is just ridiculous. Like, why? Like, these lab companies can, for a pretty good price, they can test your blood. One of the expensive parts of it is they have to pay a doctor to write prescriptions for you. Right? So it can be pretty cheap to understand what's in your blood, and it's your blood. Why can't you pay a company to analyze it for you? It makes no sense that you can't. So these are some of the regulations we're going to work on changing. But for right now, these third-party blood work companies, they have such huge volume that they can go to Quest Labs or LabCorp and get pretty big discounts. So the third-party labs just have really cost-effective labs. And when we go and design these specific protocols that for people, we can get it at a pretty good price. Right? Otherwise, if you just go yourself, or even if we didn't use a third-party blood work company, LabCorp or Quest is going to try to charge a lot of money. If you just go to Quest and say, hey, I want this blood work, first of all, they need to find you a provider to prescribe it to you, and then it costs a lot of money, right? So, but because we work through a third-party company who has huge volume, we can get the price down, right? And that's what the third-party blood work companies are. So pretty soon we're going to get the ability to not only have bundled labs that make sense. Pretty soon we're going to be able to test for the MTHFR gene. You can do that through a blood test or genetic test, and we're going to have both of those available. We're going to be able to test for clotting disorders. Everybody should know if you have a clotting disorder or not, because we can do things to reduce your risk of clotting or a stroke.
Right.
And HRT doesn't cause that, but your clotting disorder will.
Yeah.
Right. And we can do things to mitigate that. And everybody should know at a very young age if you have a genetic mutation that predisposes you to a clotting disorder. Like, I don't know why we would do that to everybody.
And then what they do by default is everybody has a clotting disorder.
Yeah, right. Or they just kind of assume that you could have a clotting disorder, therefore we're not going to do anything that it's just ridiculous. So we're going to have all the blood tests that would tell if you have a clotting disorder, and we're going to make it cheap. Like, you can test it yourself, and it shouldn't be that expensive, right? So we're going to have that. We're going to have the MTHFR for a good price too. So you can tell if you have MTHFR, then we can do things to make your life better, having that genetic mutation. Right? Or Nikki didn't like to call it mutation. I like her view on it. She likes to call it it's just your individual genetics, and we have to change the way you take certain vitamins if you have your genetics are this way, right? I like it better like that, actually. Instead of calling it a mutation or a disorder, it's just, no, your genetics make us need to treat you like this. Anyways, what else? A better marker for understanding whether or not you're prone to atherosclerosis, right? What do they do now? Oh, if you have bad cholesterol, if your LDL is high, then you could be at risk and we need to give you a statin. It's like, what? No, LDL is not necessarily bad if it's high. It's your body's just using that cholesterol. It's your brain is mostly made out of cholesterol. Like it's just ridiculous to say, well, we're going to take this one marker that may or may not indicate potential risk for atherosclerosis and just say everybody needs to keep it in this certain range. It's just ridiculous. So we're going to have a series of blood tests that test that. What's bad is the inflammation inside the vessels, right? Inside the arteries. And we're going to have certain markers that test for inflammation in there, where then the LDL does start getting stuck inside the vessels, and that's plaque buildup, right? But there's markers that tell us if you're prone to that. So we're gonna actually have all these inflammatory markers to test for that. So it's a better indication as if are you prone to potential atherosclerosis rather than just, oh, your cholesterol's high,
Right.
or it's bad. It's not. So anyways, these are the things that we're going to be doing with our blood test. And pretty soon you'll also be able to just order whatever you want. You can create your own blood test. We'll just have
Right.
Eric currently does, right? Where you can just
Click on what you want.
test and build your own, customize and build your own test that you want. And we're going to have that available pretty soon too.
Great.
So
That's
I wanna
awesome.
jump in with a question.
Yeah, please do.
And if it's too personal, you can't answer it. That's cool. Past few years, since 2017, actually, almost 10 years, I was alerted with a high PSA for prostate cancer, right?
Yeah.
And it just keeps going up, going up, going up. I had 2 biopsies, MRI,
Yeah.
all negative.
Yeah.
And I'm fine. I sleep through the night. I don't have to pee in the middle of the night, no ED problems. And I'm going in for another MRI next week.
Mhm.
What do you have any experience with that, with
Oh, yeah.
prostate issues?
It doesn't always, prostate cancer. I mean, if your PSA increases, it's possible that prostate cancer is causing that. But if they've done all the biopsies and they're keeping an eye on it and there's no evidence of cancer, then it's not cancer. Like, I mean, prostatitis can cause it. You can just have an infection of your prostate,
Yeah,
or
I mean,
some people just run with high prostate.
Yeah.
PSA is actually, it's actually an enzyme that's created out of for creating sperm, right?
Mhm.
And your body needs it to create sperm, and sometimes it can it's got these vesicles and funnels to funnel it where it's supposed to be, and sometimes it just leaks out, and it's not always a negative condition. We have seen people, who have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, sometimes even up to 13 PSAs. They have no prostate cancer, and it's just there.
And my urologist said something similar, yet the last time I went, which was a couple weeks ago, it went up a whole point. It's up to a 10.4 now. Started out as a 2 something, but because of my age, it was considered high.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know what to do with guys like you because you're healthy, everything's great, and here we are. But he wants to keep track of it. Would this HRT have any influence in any of this, or?
In a few different ways, right? It's not necessarily bad. PSA can be created from low testosterone, right? So it can actually cause problems. Like, low testosterone is a risk. You can Google this, go ahead. It will show you that low testosterone is a risk for an advanced aggressive form of prostate cancer. Right? So testosterone does not show any risk factors for testosterone or using testosterone, or any testosterone levels have no risk for prostate cancer. That was the old information. The antiquated notions were that, do you know that, like, I learned more about the what made people believe that testosterone increased the risk of prostate cancer. Do you know it was one guy, and he had a lot of credibility because he won a Nobel Prize, right? But it was one guy, his credibility, because he won a Nobel Prize. It was from one patient of his who he gave testosterone, and he gave testosterone for 18 days, and this person developed prostate cancer, right? Or they finally found it. It wasn't even that he developed it in that short period of time. One patient, 18 days, and he said, "Holy cow, testosterone! Look what it did." I think testosterone does this to people.
That's a hell of a sample, huh?
Yeah, that was it. That's where this came from, and it was this one guy with credibility who made this blanket statement, and then everybody was terrified of testosterone and possible. That's where it came from. It's freaking crazy. There's been no study that has ever showed an increased risk for when you give people testosterone, increased risk for prostate cancer, and they've done hundreds of them at this point. No study at the time indicated any increased risk, and no study since has. And it was just this massive fear-mongering machine that created this.
And can it improve prostate health?
Yes, it can improve prostate health. Now, sometimes testosterone it does activate, because testosterone converts to DHT, and DHT is a major activator of the prostate. Not necessarily bad, because if you have no activation, that's when you can get aggressive forms of prostate cancer. You need some activation. Right? So, and sometimes it can just increase the production of PSA. Again, not necessarily negatively, but for sure, I have seen people go on testosterone and their PSA reduces because it's. Again, I have seen people go on testosterone. So yeah. Yeah.
No, that's interesting. Thank you. I appreciate it. Sorry for the interruption.
No, that's good.
Oh, no, absolutely not. You're the guest. This is your show tonight, Bill. Come on. You can jump in anytime you want.
Yes, sir.
Don't apologize, please. Excuse me. So we're going to just because we pretty much covered that just by going over the flexible lab options you went on there. But we're just going to really briefly touch on these next two, which is efficient technology platform, seamless navigation from intake, telemedicine, no unnecessary steps. I mean, we pretty much covered this ad nauseum. So Ryan, would you like to just explain what seamless navigation is from intake to telemedicine for those out there that may have had some bad experiences with other clinics who then go ahead and say, yeah, there's just come sign up, $89 a month. You got your TRT.
Yeah. It's just about cutting out the fat and speed to care. Right. So,
right.
So what we do is we cut out all the little, the extras. We have a very short intake form. We process everything very quickly. We can put you in front of a doctor within 20 or a provider within 24 hours. It doesn't, we're getting better at that, but we can put you in front of a provider in 24 hours, and then your protocol can be shipped. We've seen people get it in just a couple days after that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we can talk about speed. But it's also cutting out the fat. There isn't a ton of paperwork you have to fill out, just a few things that you have to fill out. Then you go to a consultation in which the person doing your consultation will take a lot of the data that we need to, and also understand and really guide you through the whole process. And they help you a lot, help you through the whole process. And it's just about cutting out that fat and speed to care. We can get people treated in 5 days sometimes. That's from talking to somebody to getting your treatment in the mail in in 5 days sometimes. Sometimes takes a lot of times it takes a little longer, but we've so it's just about cutting out that fat and speed to care. We're become really
more like 5 business days, we'll say.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
All right, that's awesome. And yeah, it's no bullshit, guys. I mean, you just sign up, and there's no contracts, there's no onboarding fees. It doesn't get any better than that, and they're not making you get any unnecessary blood work and things of that sort. It's a really great clinic, and with this genetic testing, it's truly cutting edge. I've been saying cutting edge since they had 3 states. Yeah. Now we got all 50. Now it's really cutting edge. Yeah. Lastly, we're going to talk about innovative approaches, cutting edge protocols to get you dialed in and feeling great quickly. And that probably likely goes back to the speed to care and the whole AI programming that you're using, that you've developed as the protocols.
Yeah, I already went over all that. I kind of jumped the gun there, but that's
fine.
Using the machine learning or it's artificial intelligence, but I don't want to call it that, because artificial intelligence, when you use the internet for your information, it can what do they call it? Hallucinate, right? And it brings out all the bad information. This is like a machine learning, like a land machine learning software that only goes off the data that we feed it. So we feed it only good data, and we feed it hundreds of thousands of data points, and plus we teach it how to do this properly, with real data of people that have really been helped with this. So and it only uses that data, so it can't hallucinate from bad information from the internet. So if you're using typical AI, it can hallucinate and just give you really bad information, but this will not. So it will be just its own software that really does a great job.
Excellent. Yes. All right, guys. We're going to be segueing into the Reddit post here in a moment. I'd like to ask you guys to do me a favor. Please hit that like button if you can, and drop some comments. That would be wonderful after the video. And then, of course, you could subscribe and share if you have not been subscribed already. So what we're going to be doing is getting into something that Ryan had done before we get into the Reddit post here, where Ryan was helping a gentleman out on Reddit who had an issue with he's really looking for a partner, a girlfriend. And Ryan was helping him out, and he had said something that was kind of, I don't know, maybe concerning. It's it's something that he feels really strongly about, apparently, if he made this comment. Ryan, would you care to elaborate on what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think it would be good to get Bill. I imagine Bill in his time has seen things.
Yeah,
like
that's
this,
what, sure,
this type of desperation. But I did have somebody who reached out to me for help with hormone replacement therapy, and I started off like I normally would and said, "Okay, it looks like you have some of the initial indicators." I taught him how to get blood work and how to set up a consultation so we could really help. And it did look, again, it did look like he had a lot of the symptoms of hypogonadism or hormone deficiency. But in this process, he started to open up to me and say that he really, like, he needed to get a girlfriend so bad. It was like he was tying his whole identity to having a girlfriend, right? And he said, almost indicated that he didn't want to live anymore if he couldn't get a girlfriend. And so this was like his shot to get a girlfriend. And and the interesting part was he knew what I was going to say about how, well, you just got to work on yourself and become a better. I started to say that, I guess the cliche things that you would say if somebody said that to you, but you just got to work on yourself, become a better person and a better man, a better, provider, just, get better yourself. And then that will be attractive. Like, be confident, again, work on yourself. That's attractive. And then a partner just kind of comes out of that, instead of like really actually looking. You shouldn't really look for a girlfriend. It should just kind of happen organically. And of course he knew I was going to say that, though. And he said, I don't want to hear this. This needs to happen. So Bill, have you had people that with this kind of desperation who are starting to tie their identity or tie their self-worth to having a girlfriend? And what would you say to somebody like that?
I've seen it a lot, and I'll even support him in my third marriage, even though I had a lot of awareness. I remember saying at one point before we got married, because we had a roller coaster relationship, and I remember saying, I just want to be married. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what am I saying? And you talked about money earlier, that's one reason, but it was just this, I identified myself with being married, and I had been married twice and was comfortable with that. I was familiar with that. And yet I was in this tumultuous relationship that just wasn't working. And I was just going for the crumbs, man. And I would get the crumbs, a little bit of something from her. And I'd be like, there she is. That's the one I want, and then that was just enough to keep me hanging in. Yeah. And then, once I got the awareness of realizing that this ain't working right, and I'm losing myself in this relationship, I gotta be me. I gotta be with me again, and realize from that point on, I wasn't gonna let anybody define who I am or lose my identity in a relationship. So with this guy, I get it. There's something that he's identifying, I think, in being in relationship, being with a woman, but it's a lot more than just wanting that. That's so surface, and there's so much deeper territory that you got to go to in order to make a relationship sustain. And instead of going for desperation, like, go for curiosity, like, learn about who someone is and their interests, and do we have enough in common and enough different in order to make this relationship work. But just to have a girlfriend for the sake of having a girlfriend, well, it may work out, but
yeah.
Yeah.
like a high level therapist or psychologist would say like the locus of your identity is completely external to you, right?
Yeah, right.
Right. Yeah. So, which means that again, you're just looking for outside of yourself for for validation, right? So
Right. It's very ego
your
based.
validation is contingent on what other people think, right, or how other people are other things,
Yeah.
and you know, but another thing that, like what I've learned over time is I've really done a lot of studying neurobiology just because human behavior fascinates me, right? And when we talk about, like Bill, when we talk about you know, how we just want that relationship aspect, or especially like say when you've fallen in love with somebody and then that person completely changes, whether they decline into, like, you know, drugs or alcohol, or something just really devastating happens, and they're just not the same person they used to be. And some of this can happen with the hormone deficiency, right? But a lot of what that neurochemically, what that is a function of, is we have this dose response: dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins, and those are released in huge amounts when we're in love with somebody, when we're having a very validating relationship.
Sure.
Dopamine, what dopamine does is dopamine tells your body, wherever I've had that dose response, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins, go get that again, and go to that again. That's the motivating ambition factor behind dopamine. So if you've had that with this one person, you've had all those neurochemicals, dopamine says go to that person because they were the source of those neurotransmitters before, right? And so go get more of it. When that person isn't the same person and they're not doing the things that they should be, you kind of get left with this: I'm attracted to this person, I love this person, but they're just a shell of what they used to be. And that's when you have like people, why can't you get rid of that person, right? And that's right. Dopamine is telling you to go back to that. And sometimes you do have to cut that cord, right, and just say that, you know, this person wasn't what they used to be or whatever. But that's the reason for.
Yeah, and I'll share a different take on that, and I agree with what you're saying. What's happening when you're getting that dopamine response is that love and that feeling is actually from you. That's inside of you.
Yeah.
And we think it's external.
Mhm.
And we think it's because of that we have that. But no, we have that already. And that's what we don't realize.
Yeah.
And then to your point, you know, if you're, you know, that early stage of, you know, intensity and excitement, and you know, that's all great, and we're familiar with that, but it's not necessarily the best thing for us. You know, it's being less urgent, you know, and being more like chill. And what happens, you know, you go through the stages of relationship where you have that kind of euphoric stage, that dopamine high, and then you have the conflict stage. And if you're not getting any dopamine from that, unless you are, you know, like trying to gain your power, and you're getting off on that.
Yeah, power and dominion, is dopaminergic to some people. Yeah.
Right. But for the most part, you're not going to get that, you know, that euphoric feeling that you had, the intensity that you had in the beginning. And that's where kind of the maturity level kicks in, to where, okay, this is what's real. This is reality of relationships. And now we've got to learn how to deal with these conflicts and meet each other in a way that we can sustain this relationship. And yeah, people want to go for the high. So, all right. And that's part of where I overlap too, in relationships, whereas, all right, this is not any fun anymore, especially like high school, college. It's like, all right, this is not fun anymore. Oh, she's hot, I'm going to go with her. But that's not going to sustain a relationship. So there you are.
Yeah. That's it's a very interesting. Human behavior is just fascinating, and a lot of it does come down to these neurotransmitters. Like, it's pervasive how these neurotransmitters, like the ones I mentioned, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins, and in relationships, there's a lot of oxytocin release, right? That's a huge factor, and dopamine is saying, go get that oxytocin. I had that before, and you know, again, dopamine's the motivating chemical. But you're right, it's like when you start putting thought behind it into what are the characteristics and the personalities that I know from experience will actually lead to long-term sustainability of this of this
Yeah,
relationship. But it's hard to put cognition into the feelings, the emotions created by these neurotransmitters, right?
And that's part of what the work I do. When I work with like a mindfulness model called acceptance commitment therapy, where you accept all that stuff, whether it's dopamine or going the other way, that you accept whatever it is, but you don't respond from that. You don't react from that. You respond from what matters to you, what's important to you. And so, yeah, it's learning to recognize, oh, yeah, that was the dopamine. Now, what can I do to get that back in a different way, perhaps?
Yeah. What do you think about this, Bill? Because this is what I see as I got older and explored relationships. What you start to see as you get older is the opposite. Is people's defense mechanisms are too great, and they're putting up walls and not letting them experience the joy of a relationship because they're so scared of getting hurt. They've been hurt in the past. Yeah. So that's something that we have to avoid too, right? Is the walls. You can't put up too many walls. You can't put up these defense mechanisms. Sometimes you gotta let the emotions in. You gotta let the feelings in. What do you say about that?
Absolutely. And I'll give myself as an example. When I met my wife, I'd been through 3 divorces, went from this big ass house to 1 room in this guy's house that I was renting. I had 2 kids, and the radio station I was working for changed format. So I was out of a job. At least in terms of radio. I was still doing my holistic health stuff, but that wasn't paying all the bills. And so I didn't look good on paper at all. And I'm sitting there, and this may sound all woo-woo, but I was sitting in meditation one night, and I hear this like Rafiki from The Lion King going, "It is time." And I'm like, you gotta be kidding. What are you talking about? And it was really clear. No, I have to put this profile out on a website. And I just said, all right, I trusted my intuition. I went on this website and put out my profile. I just made it look good, but I didn't put all my bad stuff in there. And then I get poked by my current wife 3 days later. Most of the responses I was getting were from like Russia and Europe, and no way I was going to meet these people. And this person happened to be 30 miles away. And we started chatting via email at that time. And I was asking, we were asking each other our values, clarification. I gave her all my history, 3 divorces. And she's like, damn, at least he believes in marriage, So, and again, I didn't look good on paper, but we just kept going. And then after we did all that, cleared out who we were, we decided to talk on the phone, and then subsequently we met. And once we met, that was it. And the thing was, I was at this stage where like, I don't have time to mess around and play games. I got to be who I am. I got to be authentically me. This is who I am. And if this ain't going to work for you, then let's not even try this, because otherwise you're wasting your time. And so, and she did the same, she was really open with me. And, that takes a lot of courage to do that, I learned. And because, like you said, we want to hold our cards close to us. We want to protect ourselves from getting hurt. Well, you're not gonna find that person if you're guarded. And my tagline at the end of each episode is keep your heart open and stay on the path to love. And no matter whether it breaks again or not, so what? It'll heal. You'll get better. But when you guard yourself and you're not putting your authentic self out there, you're not being real, then good luck with that.
You got to put yourself in a position to be able to have positive things happen, right? to benefits. You got to put yourself in that position, and you can't do that if you're too guarded, right? So it's like, so what is wisdom? Like, wisdom is probably understanding that, right? It's understanding when do I just tell this chick to kick rocks, or for girls, when do I tell this dude to kick rocks? Or when do I leave enough open so I can give myself the potential to experience, joy, love and joy and everything that comes with a positive relationship.
I did an episode with a woman who wrote a book about 21 red flags. And, red flags, we're so concerned about the red flags. And there's a red flag, and if you're feeling something, well, explore that red flag and see what happens. But if the flag goes up and you're like, nope, I'm out of here, kick rocks, then you don't know. But if you're with somebody long enough and it starts to creep in and you see the red flags, it's a chance to talk about it, open up about it, and do something about it. And then if it continues, then you know.
Yeah.
But you may be selling yourself short because a lot of us don't have the awareness. We don't understand, man, women, it doesn't matter. And then when we are made aware of the impact that we're having on someone, then we have a chance to do something about it. But otherwise, we're just going to keep repeating the same old pattern, same old relationship, and wonder how the hell did I get here again.
Yeah. So we have some great Reddit posts about relationships and about how hormone replacement therapy have really kind of changed things and made things better. So let's
why don't we get into the Reddit post, because I believe I'm having some tech issues with the audio playing. So let's jump
we could
right
hear
into
it before, Eric.
You were able to hear it?
Yeah, we could hear it.
For some reason it sounded like it was coming out of my monitor.
No,
let me pull that. Let me pull that back up and let's get a look. Where'd it go? Okay, here we go. Let's add that to the stage, because this here is. I wanted to get the name of this here. This is the silent crisis: why surgically castrated women are undertreated and suffering. Let's have a listen.
Treated, castrated women have sex lives. Late breaking news, but nobody's doing a damn thing about it. And I need you to hear this, because the silence around it is harming women, relationships, everybody. So this new study, 2026, showed premenopausal women who underwent risk-reducing ovary removal and compared them to age-matched controls who kept their ovaries. They tracked sexual function and distress for 2 full years. What happened was not subtle. By 24 months after surgery, women who lost their ovaries had worse sexual desire, arousal, lubrication, and satisfaction, with more pain and discomfort during sex than before surgery. Sexual distress didn't just rise, it nearly quadrupled. Now here's the part that should make everybody uncomfortable. About 30% of these women were under age 40. This is not natural menopause. This is abrupt endocrine loss. And despite that, care was minimal. Yes, about 60% were placed on hormone therapy, but half were on doses below a standard 0.05 milligram estradiol patch equivalent, which is often inadequate for true hormone replacement in premenopausal women. Only 8% used vaginal estrogen, despite worsening pain and discomfort. No one was on testosterone. Then the conclusion says hormone therapy wasn't associated with better sexual outcomes. No shit. They were undertreated. That's not a failure of hormones. That's a failure of dosing, formulation, and care. I'm going to say the quiet part out loud. It is ethically questionable to surgically castrate premenopausal women, especially those under 40, and then act surprised when low libido, pain, and sexual distress follow it. And then we repeat the studies and keep publishing them. They underdose them, and then they say hormones don't help. This study doesn't tell us that women don't need hormones. It tells us that we are undertreating surgical menopause and calling it best case scenario. These women don't need reassurance. They need adequate estrogen replacement, vaginal estrogen for GSM, pelvic floor support, and real conversations about sexual function, including androgens, instead of silence. Because when undertreated, castrated women have sex lives, that's not biology failing. That's medicine failing.
Love it. I love Kelly Casper. It's just powerful, right? It's like,
that was good.
I've said this for a long time that it's not just about the decision to use hormone replacement therapy. It's about understanding the pharmacokinetics of the routes of administration that you're using and understanding adequate dosing. So it's not just about, okay, yeah, I'll go to my PCP and get hormone replacement therapy. It's about getting an actual adequate protocol. That's very important. What Kelly Casperson so eloquently and emotionally gave us there was that I see this all the time too. Females have either their uterus or full hysterectomy, and then a lot of times they don't even get put on hormone replacement therapy. How can you take the organ that produces hormones and then not replace the hormones? It's just I have as much anger as Kelly does.
That's like cutting off your nuts, right?
Yeah,
exactly. It's exactly like doing that.
Yeah. So, and again, it's not just about, so some of the doctors will go, okay, well, here, use I've seen it as bad as they give them a small dose of vaginal estrogen and say use it 3 times a week. Estrogen is very fast acting. It's in and out of your system in 6 to 8 hours. So when you say use it 3 times a week, you're giving them a small dose of estrogen that will last 6 to 8 hours each administration, and then saying, oh, I don't understand what's wrong here. Well, you have to have a maintained dose of estrogen. It just doesn't make it. They just don't know how to use it, right? So
Right.
understanding how to use these, understanding the half-lives, understanding proper protocols, adequate amounts is all important. And I love what Kelly Casperson does there. Androgens are important in females too. Women need testosterone. And we're going to learn a whole bunch on this subject about what women, when they get proper hormone replacement therapy, what it does for them and their relationships.
Exactly. All right, guys, if you want to start dropping some questions, we're going to be getting into some great Reddit posts now, as well as following that, we will get into, after we talk to Bill a little bit more, we're going to answer a few questions in a lightning round. If you have any, you could drop them. We'll flag those for you. Let's go ahead and add this to the stage. This here is from our menopause. HRT has changed my marriage in a good way. I'm not going to read everything. I'm just going to kind of go through the main points here. So she sees so many women falling out of love during this period of their lives. At one point, she felt numb towards her husband of 20 plus years. I loved him and needed him, but just felt, it was a weird spot. Plus, sex was painful and like nails on a chalkboard. This went on for about 5 years, and then I started HRT and TRT beginning of 2025. I did 180 degree and have fallen head over heels again, and sex is wonderful, no longer hurts. But it's different than when we fell in love in our 20s. Somehow getting my hormones balanced has brought a sense of awareness I didn't have prior. I'm actively choosing to love him every day, which just makes my heart love him more. All those things that pissed me the F off prior to HRT in the shadows now. It's a real place to be, and I am grateful, especially when I see so many marriages fizzling out around our 40s and 50s. Has anyone else had this experience after getting on hormone or getting their hormones balanced, rather? So, Bill, please, is this something that you have seen in your coaching, men and women that get into their 40s, early 50s, that they just start to lose interest in each other?
Absolutely. And that can be for a variety of reasons. But if you're talking about health issues and lack of energy, lack of sleep, poor diet and all those things that are contributing to that, then you add the stress of the day-to-day, kids and everything. It makes sense that they need a boost of energy just to get through the day, much less, the relationship. So,
Right.
I haven't heard about this until I spoke with Ryan in terms of how this could boost a relationship. I mean,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
amazing. And when I mentioned it to my wife, she's like, yeah, I'm interested. I mean, we've got a great sex life. We just love each other, man. But we're always go for the optimal. And she's had some health issues in the past, and that's some concern around it. But my point is that she would be up for it, and
Absolutely.
if you get the other person on board, whether it's HRT or your relationship coaching or whatever it is to improve your relationship, hey, go for it.
Yeah. In a second, what I want to talk about is the neurobiochemistry behind what these things are doing and why exactly what's happening in here is happening. And then we'll start to go into some of these comments. The comments on this one are great too, because there's so many emails coming and saying, "Oh yeah, the same thing happened to me. I couldn't stand my husband." And then all of a sudden, let's figure out.
It's great to hear that. It's great to hear that from the women. You don't think the guys, but the women. That's just makes it like gravy.
So just to your point, Bill, like what I've seen so often is exactly that. So historically, hormone replacement therapy has been stigmatized, especially testosterone has been stigmatized for females. It was stigmatized for so long with HRT was stigmatized so long for females because of the fear-mongering machine that it could increase the risk of cancer. We now know it does not. They've taken the black box warning off. It was all false. So over 20 years, the fear-mongering machine just made women believe that hormone replacement therapy could increase the risk of cancer, and that's why nobody uses it. It doesn't, never did. It was, again, that's a whole nother, we've gone over that many times before, but so it's been stigmatized, right, for females. Now, testosterone replacement therapy for men has been a little bit more accepting, and has been more accepting a little earlier.
Right.
And it's just becoming much more acceptable for women. Testosterone for females is becoming more, still stigmatized. Again, everybody thinks testosterone's a male hormone, estrogen's a female hormone. That's just ridiculous. They're human hormones. They're vertebrate hormones. Every single vertebrate has testosterone, estrogen, progesterone. Even a lot of plants have it, right? They're foundational signals, metabolic signals, and neurochemical signals, right? So for men, like it was just much more okay for men to take testosterone replacement therapy. What I saw happening just on a vast level is the men would start feeling better. Their lives are getting better. They're more confident. They're doing better things. They're motivated and ambitious to go out and do things. And there would be a sense of hostility almost from the females because the men are experiencing all of this. They're up here, and the females are kind of left like still tired, still fatigued, still.
She feels resentful.
Yeah, there's some resentment there. That's exactly right. And I would see that causing problems in relationships. I've been just doing this for so long. I've seen it over and over again. Yeah. So my answer to that has always been get your partner to go on hormone replacement therapy with you. What I've seen over and over again is it becomes this bonding tool. Now you're both doing this thing together. You can actually start exercising together because exercising is exponentially more effective when you're on hormone replacement therapy. It becomes this bonding tool of we're doing this thing together. We're both progressing together. We're both just feeling better. And it becomes a bonding tool as opposed to just a resentment tool. Right.
Exactly.
So let's go into Eric. What do you think? Should we read some of the comments or should we go?
Yeah, I want to read at least a couple of them.
Yeah.
You want to do a couple comments first?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do a few comments and then let's start to explain the neurochemistry. The comments on this one are just fantastic.
I just wanted to read a few comments here so that people can see that this isn't just like an anomaly. All right. This one here, I got to go from 2 months ago. This happened to me too. I went 3 years without sex. I'm ashamed to admit that. I couldn't tolerate to be in the same room with my husband. Every little thing he did annoyed me. I also started HRT and TRT in January. Oh, so did my wife. I guess I'm a slow responder because I didn't notice any difference until August. Stacy actually had mentioned that on the stream that she was on. That it took her some time. I woke up, or was that Stacy? I can't recall. Yeah, it was Stacy. I woke up one morning and out of the blue, I felt a tingly in my lady parts. My wife calls me that. My wife calls that lady boners. It had been so long since I felt that feeling that I didn't even realize it first what it was. And yeah, that actually happens when you don't have a libido for so long. It's like, what? This is new, you know? It had been so long since I felt that feeling. Okay, blah, blah, blah. I then started having sex dreams. Oh, orgasms in my sleep. So wet dreams. It took me days to work up the courage to approach my husband for sex. Wow. So they had been going for so long that she didn't even want to approach her own husband. She thought it was weird
to want to have sex with her husband now. Like, that's how bad it was. That's crazy. Like,
it took her days to work up the courage to approach her husband for sex. He was very surprised but willing. So I'll just skip down to the end here. When I look at him now, it's like I have fallen in love with him all over again, and I can't believe that my lack of hormones almost destroyed our marriage.
Yeah.
I mean, I hear that and I think of, like I said, I work with a lot of women, and just being on their cycle. We talk about how women are, and their hormones are all out of whack. So that, that's just an obvious demonstration of how hormones impact the psyche.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Like, and when we kind of make light or fun of PMS, right? And we say, oh, during that crazy time. But what it is actual, just a vast understanding and knowledge and understanding and just from, just multi-millions of anecdotal data that, yes, when your hormones fluctuate like this, it really does. And I heard a neuroscientist actually say this. In fact, I think it was Huberman.
Oh yeah.
Who actually said, yes, you are actually not in your right mind when that's why we call it PMS. And that's why this irritability and all these things. And he went in and explained, which we will do here in a second, explain how the neurochemical reactions are not happening properly. And you are actually changing your neurochemistry, and all the stress hormones come out and create this irritable person that's actually not yourself. You are literally out of your mind while your hormones are fluctuating, and while your hormones are low when they dip like that for your cycle. And imagine if it's just like that all the time because you're entering menopause. Like you're just in this constant PMS state, right? So let's read a couple more, and then let's understand the neurochemistry behind it.
Sure, absolutely. Let's do that. Okay. So, married 25 years to an amazing guy. Started HRT 3 years ago, TRT 2 years ago. I'm now age 47, and honestly, I wish I had started earlier. That's one of the main themes that we always hear.
Yeah.
We have always had a great relationship, but now it's better than we ever had it. The chemistry, vitality, and playful towards each other is just incredible. He got on TRT about 8 months ago, and wow, between the two of us, unstoppable.
All right.
We are both very fit, lean, agile, and muscular, and feel amazing in our bodies and with each other. We are intimate almost daily, and even when not, still very playful and flirty, fun banter. It feels good to feel good and feel desired. I'm lucky to be married to such a great guy, and I'm looking forward to a lot more great years, really living our best lives together. I'm honestly so grateful not to be raw dogging at this phase. I just feel like a better wife in every way. Now, one thing I'd like to make a comment on is because pretty much when we do these Reddit posts and women that get on HRT and men too, the primary topic is a lot of times sex. Okay. And yeah, don't get me wrong. You want to talk about somebody who loves sex, you're talking to them right now. But there is so many other incredible benefits to HRT than just your improved libido. But because for tonight's topic, it is about relationships. So of course, sex in a relationship is really the aggregate that holds a solid relationship together. Otherwise, you just become roommates. And then those little things that annoy you because all you're doing is living together and you're living separate lives. And then, the pet peeves, they start to get to you. But when you are having an intimate relationship and you've been married 20 plus years or so, when typically by that point, you've been in a sexless marriage for some time already. But then when you bring that intimacy back into your relationship and you get motivated to get to the gym, to start looking better for each other and for yourself, and then you start to get that positive reinforcement where you know that your husband or wife is more attracted to you. You're getting more looks as you go out that you may not have gotten in a decade or more. Those are all positive reinforcing cycles that make you want to continue to do well. So there's so many benefits to HRT outside of sex, which sex, of course, is a great benefit. Now, Ryan, did you want to add on to that?
I think you stated it. You stated it really well. I guess I would just. I'm trying to find one of these comments that really goes into. I'm trying to think if the next one does.
It might be that I was looking through before. I know what you're looking for.
But just something where somebody was like, there's one, and it might be a different post, but it was one where she was like, it might be the next one. But
we'll just keep going and see what happens.
They just start talking about how they could tell, like when they would stop their therapy or just let a little lapse in their therapy, or they could, when they finally fix something in their hormone therapy, that they went from thinking almost every minute, like looking for a way out of this marriage and I got to get away from this person.
Yeah.
So when the cocktail was right, they were just absolutely in love with their man.
I'm pretty positive we're going to come across that. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry, dude.
Show you how important that these hormones are. And I guess like after one of those good ones, then we'll get into the exactly what's happening, the neurobiology.
Sure. Let's move along here. This is another good one. Let's see. This one here is from Our Marriage, actually. Hormone therapy has improved my married sex life. Anyone else experience this? So we got a 54-year-old female started bioidentical hormone replacement therapy in January after going through menopause in 2020. So I put it off for a while, and my sex drive is through the roof. I wish I'd done it sooner. My hubby, 51-year-old male, had started on testosterone therapy a few years ago for reasons other than libido, since he never had an issue with that. And I was resentful at first. That's something we hear a lot about. Since I tended to not be as interested in sex, but now that I'm also on hormone therapy, it has been great for our relationship as we communicate better now, enjoy our time together, and the exploring of our sexual relationship like never before, even better than in our 20s when we first met. We've been loving it. We love to hear if other couples have experienced same or similar.
Love that.
1000%. Katie Pigler 78 here says 1000%. I had every menopause symptom you could have. It was awful. I started peri at 37. My doctor just kept telling me I was too young. Yeah, of course. I found a hormone specialist and it changed my life. I'm on BJRT pellets. My sex drive went through the roof and absolutely loving it. This one here says, isn't the best. I wish it done it sooner, but my hubby and I are just embracing this stage of our marriage and having the best time we've had in 26 years together. That's going to be like a repeating theme. And the reason for that is because when you're young and the relationship is fresh and you're a younger couple, the communication isn't there. But as you get older, that communication, the walls just come down. You mature. You don't really give a shit anymore. You tell each other what each other likes, and that's why sex gets so much better as you get older. And that's why the people that are on hormones, because now they're having hormone levels of a younger person. However, they have all of that now, maturity, the communication, the experience. And so that's what makes it better, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to take down my relationship coach shingle and just do HRT, man.
Yeah. So, like, that Eric, that brings up like a little segue, and I want to get into a little side note here about what do you think about on the note of communication, right? And I think, it's just hugely vital, and even when people think they're communicating, it turns out they're not properly communicating. So what do you think, Bill, about Jay Shetty and a lot of the things that he teaches? I've really learned a lot from him. And
I think he puts out really good stuff. I follow him. One of the biggest issues in communication is listening, and it's listening to understand and to have empathy versus listening to jump in and solve a problem or say your piece. And that's where a lot of it gets lost. And if we could just slow down, listen, and really be able to relay that back, repeat it back so that there's understanding. And if you don't, then keep doing it until you do. But we a lot of us just hold on to our egos. We don't, we don't want to tear it on that wall, and we don't listen.
What I see, what you start to learn again as you start to experience this, and when you start to listen to other really smart people talk about it, is that the communication, it goes the way you were just talking about, Bill, but it also goes the other way about actually communicating your expectations.
Sure.
So one way I like to put it is that we're a product of our environment and our history, the way we were brought up. We're a product of all of that, right? And we develop certain expectations about how others should act, how others should be, about what our personal ideal vision of a perfect relationship is. Like, we have that all in our head, and when we just expect somebody else to act that way without communicating it, we're expecting them to be a mind reader. Right. So
you're setting yourself up for disappointment.
Right. Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many women say to me, well, he should just know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why? Yeah.
You gotta tell him.
I know.
You're exactly right. And that's a big part of the problem is when you get frustrated for somebody for not just acting the way you think they should act, when that person can't read your mind, it doesn't, they have their own values, their own vision of how a relationship go. The other person has they're all brought up in their own way of what's moral, you may have this expectation that somebody does this one thing, but somebody else never grew up with that expectation, so they don't have it in a relationship. So it's also about communicating your vision about how your ideal vision of how things should be, of how a relationship go, or how people should act in certain scenarios.
Yeah, and that was part of the groundwork that my wife and I did before we even talked on the phone. I mean, it's just like that vision, like you said, and that makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
And we're in such a rush a lot of the times to just get on with the relationship that we don't take that time to really, really be clear for ourselves, and then be able to communicate that in a clear way to our partner.
Yeah. So, and it can be as dumb as like, he should know that you do the dishes every night after dinner, and the man does it, and you should know that. That's just how it is, right?
Right.
But he grew up where, no, you do them in the morning, you don't do them at night, you do them in the morning, and maybe his mother always did them, so he doesn't know that it should be the male's job or something. I'm just using an example. So, but like when you don't have that communication,
interrupt you to say, if you use that example, then you get to decide how you want to do it. But at least you've talked about how you were brought up.
And a lot of times for like the male, it would be fine if the female said, hey, I grew up where the man does the dishes after dinner, and that's just how I would like it. The male probably wouldn't have a problem doing that. They just didn't know that you expected that to be done, and you would actually get irritated if it wasn't done like that. So it's just communicating all these little things like that. Like, a lot of times you can say like, okay, I'll do it that way. I just didn't know you wanted it to be done that way.
I laugh about it because that actually is that's actually happened to me more than a few times. Like she'll make a crazy comment and be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
You didn't even give me a chance. I'm still working.
Yeah.
And those things are, relatively easy to work out if you're communicating.
Oh yeah.
And even if you don't want to do the dishes at night as you were brought up to do, maybe you could work out a compromise, or maybe it becomes what's called an unsolvable problem.
Yeah.
And then you go, okay, we're not going to solve this problem. So what are we going to do with it? Are we going to end the relationship over this? Or we're going to say we're not solving this problem and move on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. That's good. But at least you communicated about it. So now it's all out in the open.
You have to.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
And I think where you see a lot of the little tic-tac fights happen is that, right? Is that where you just have this idea of how somebody should respond or act in a certain scenario, and that wasn't clearly communicated, and the other person doesn't hold the same understanding of how to act in a certain scenario.
We can't.
And it may take it the wrong way. Yeah, they may actually take it the wrong way.
Yeah,
like, it's just, or he or she is just doing this because they don't want to, or whatever the case may be.
Or they take it as an act of disrespect when it was really just, no, I just had no idea you wanted me to act this way or that way. Yeah, it's like, and you're right. It starts being taken the wrong way, and then it's just like, that's why it's just open communication. And
absolutely.
And kind of like you said earlier, Bill, is like sometimes you have to give the other person a break and say, okay.
Yeah, grace.
Communicate. This is how I, and you have to say it. The way you say it is important too, right? You have to communicate that in a respectful.
Oh yeah, that's a big part of communication.
You should know to do this thing, you retard, you idiot.
Yeah.
Or it would be really helpful for me because when I did, the simple as that.
Yeah.
Leading into it versus judgment and the finger pointing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Already, you've just created.
You're creating a defense.
Yeah,
right
you've hijacked their middle, and now they're in defense mode, so they just go right into fight or flight, right? Like when you're in defense mode, it's fight or flight.
Yeah,
you attack somebody, they feel attacked, they go into fight or flight, and then they choose to fight back. So now they're coming at you with something, and you have this whole argument over something that didn't need to happen.
Over something so stupid, almost always.
All you had to do was be communicated properly and in a respectful manner, and then.
And somebody has to call a timeout, It's like, otherwise that can go all night, and then you don't get anywhere.
Exactly.
Like I've heard it from a psychological point of view called hijacking your amygdala, right? So the amygdala is when you feel attacked, all of your neurons divert to your amygdala, which is the fight or flight mechanism, and now you're thinking, do I run or do I fight? And a lot of times people pick fight, and then they just go. And you're not thinking from your prefrontal cortex, which is the reasoning center. You're just thinking, just attack, fight. And that can be avoided by not making people feel attacked, right? It can be avoided just by, again, communicating and stating, hey, I feel like this, or or whatever, it's just through non-confrontational language.
Yeah, it's like, he hasn't seen his wife all day, and she's gone, and she comes home a little bit late from work. Where the fuck you been? Blah, 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 blah. Instead of, I missed you today, and I was wondering where you were.
Yeah, right.
Whole different story.
And
and you can still be angry and pissed off that she was not around, but you lead with the other way, you're going to get a lot better response than where the hell are you?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And saying, if that happens again in the future, I would appreciate it if you would call me or text me or do these things.
There you go.
And then you can set the expectation.
You got other stories.
You can set the expectation. And now if they fail, you can be like, then, you might have an argument of like, I've told you how I would like this handled and whatever. But at least you set the expectation, and now the person understands how to handle that scenario. But,
exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Some of what I was talking about were on. Okay. Yeah, we can do this one.
I wanted to take this one here because it had to do with a man, actually.
Okay. Sure.
So for females, has taken HRT or testosterone change your attraction to your... Wait a minute. Did I... Does anyone know HRT correlate to tolerable? No, it's still the... Okay, I'm a 40-year-old female. No, how did that happen? I thought that we had a man's one in here.
There's one of them where it might be this one where a man is commenting a lot.
Oh, is that what it is?
It might be this one, yeah.
They want to go private. How long did it take for you to feel a difference? Let me go back. I think it was this one. No, it's still going on about the libido. Where was it? Hormones can definitely impact libido and attraction. It's worth talking to a doctor about testing and possible treatment. I'd suggest a clinic, but talk to your provider. But also giving yourself space to understand your feelings before making any major decisions. So what's this woman here talking about that they're actually considering? All right, I'm not attracted to him anymore. He's a great, handsome, funny guy, etc. Long story about relationships. Insert here. Okay. My libido has always been low, and it's even lower. Now I find myself more attracted to women. Before I blow up my family, has anyone had hormones tested and treated, etc., and found that it made them more attracted to their spouse or at least the opposite sex again? I know this sounds stupid, which is why I'm on this subreddit. You're not overthinking it. Hormones can definitely impact libido and attraction. It's worth talking to a doctor about your testing and possible treatment, but also give yourself space to understand your feelings before making any major decisions. Okay, yes, HRT has dramatic effects. Okay, so that is the case. That's actually what I was saying earlier. When my wife got an HRT, she actually was more attracted to me, and that's I went through the same thing when I was hypogonadal for all those years. I was like a freaking plant. I wasn't interested in anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, almost like asexual.
Yeah, like a plant. Yeah, asexual.
So one thing I want to comment on that one, this is what I see done wrong a lot, is a lot of people say, "Oh, you should talk to your doctor about your hormones."
Yeah,
doctors, if you go to medical school in the United States, we know for a fact you did not learn about testosterone or these hormones. You did not learn about it in medical school, which is why why the medical community is so ignorant about it and why they're not really helpful when it comes to this. So you don't want to go to your doctor. You want to go to a hormone specialist, not an endocrinologist either. They're not hormone specialists. They're insulin specialists. Right?
Yeah.
So you want to go to somebody who specializes in hormone replacement therapy. And it's not an gynecologist. It's not an endocrinologist. It's somebody who actually does HRT.
And that was my experience when I was mentioning earlier about the doctor in California, and that's what he specialized in, and I trusted him. And then fast forward to just a few years ago, I was just curious what my testosterone was, and I asked my doctor about it, and he says, "Do you have ED?" And I said, "No way." And he goes, "Well, I can't. Your insurance is not going to pay for it. I can't do it."
Yeah. Unfortunate for this one here. It doesn't sound stupid. I'm a 45-year-old female and having a similar problem. I'm on TRT. While my libido has come back, I do not feel attracted to my husband whatsoever. I feel terrible about it, as we've been together for 15 years and been married for 8. He's a nice guy, but nice guys finish last. We know that. There is zero attraction there now.
Well, that's when you need to come to a coach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
If the HRT is not working, okay, here you go.
go to
Over
the-
here. Let me help you out here.
Go to both, or just do both. Get on HRT and go to
There you
both.
go. Do both.
That's
There
what,
you go.
that's what
We
we'll
can
say.
we can all get along here.
All right, let's do this one. The one, has anyone noticed that?
Yeah,
HRT
I was just about to pull that one
That's
up
the
because there's
one
actually
that-
some really good comments in here.
This is good.
So has anyone noticed that the HRT levels directly correlate with how tolerable or intolerable your husband is? Okay. 100%. When my E is low, I feel asexual. Even a hug makes my skin crawl. When my E is stable, I want to hug and kiss my partner all day. He came home from work really mad and was ranting to me about it, and the whole time I could think was about how hot he looked. And that's on here says, yeah, you and I both jokingly call it the niceness medicine. Actually, a few months before I started HRT, someone told me your husband is so hilarious. And I was like, huh? And a few weeks after starting HRT, I was like, oh, yeah, he actually is cute and funny. I stopped HRT for a couple months and the annoyance came back quickly. Wow. So must be the one that you were talking about. Now I'm back on and I like him again. And to be clear, this isn't a case of estrogen making me blind to his flaws. He's a genuinely good person and husband I really like and love him. It's so strange how the lack of estrogen just makes that drain out of me.
Yeah. So you see,
Ryan?
this female knew. She's like, I knew that something was wrong with me. She knew her husband was a good man and that he did everything right, and she knew something was wrong with her, and she still couldn't help it. She still was just like, I just wasn't attracted to him. So I think that's a good one.
Goes back, I'm sorry, that goes back to communication. Like, talk about that.
Do you really talk about? I want to smash you in your face every single day. I don't know. I don't know if that would.
Well, I don't know. You don't have to
gotta be a
necessarily
nicer way to
that,
say it, right?
but to at least say, and just be real. And
Yeah.
not in a mean, destructive way, but just in a real, authentic way.
Yeah.
And maybe he'll be, understanding and open. And, if I knew that my wife was going through hell with her hormones,
Yeah.
and I know, I mean, she reassures me if we're not doing anything, it's not because of me, it's because of where she is. And so I know that, it's not about me. But if I didn't know that she was going through something, then I'm going to get all mad and resentful because I'm not getting what I want.
Yeah.
But if I understand that she's feeling like this, like, why would I want to have sex with her if it makes her skin crawl?
Yep.
Like, nah, let's figure this
Let's
out.
figure it out. Yeah. No, that's a great point.
Yeah.
And a lot of, unfortunately, like a lot, there's such an ignorance on hormones. A lot of people don't know it's their hormones, or just like you said, Bill, if you think it could be your hormones, talk about it with your partner. Okay, I got to get this thing figured out because I know that, you do everything right and I should be attracted to you, but like something is going on. So talk about it. And then maybe the other person can help. Okay, let's go get your hormones fixed. So let's talk about what happens here. So I'm going to look over here because I wrote some notes on this because I think it's important.
Sure.
So estrogen is a master regulator of serotonin, right? Serotonin is kind of what makes us feel good about situations, right? So, I mean, the problem with just the serotonergic, the problem with SSRIs, the reason why we here don't recommend SSRIs, not some people definitely need them, so I don't want to say everybody, but a large part, if you just go to your doctor, you say, hey, I'm fatigued and lethargic, and they say, well, you must be depressed, and just throw you on an SSRI. That's just not the way to handle things,
Right?
Because it makes you kind of passive about just saying my current situation is just good, right? So serotonin alone is not an answer. You need the dopamine, you need the oxytocin, you need the serotonin, but serotonin with those other things is certainly massively beneficial. It makes you feel good about your current situation, right? So estrogen is a major master regulator. It increases what's called tryptophan hydroxylase. Sorry, Bill, we get really nerdy in here. So
No, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. Go ahead.
It increases tryptophan hydroxylase. Tryptophan hydroxylase. Serotonin is the step before serotonin is 5-HTP, hydroxytryptophan, right? So tryptophan is the precursor to serotonin. So if we increase tryptophan hydroxylase, then we increase the enzyme that creates serotonin, right? Testosterone is tyrosine hydroxylase, tyrosine hydroxylase, which is a precursor to creating dopamine, right? So that's why everything goes together. We increase your estrogen, we increase your testosterone, you get a dopamine, oxytocin, or dopamine, serotonin uptake, and then in there, estrogen also increase, estrogen and testosterone increase the proclivity of oxytocin receptors. So it makes you more receptive to oxytocin. So all of these things just kind of come together. So if we have low estrogen, we have low serotonin, we don't feel good about our current situation, no matter what it is. So even if you have a great husband who's doing all the right things, you're just not going to feel good about that situation because your serotonin is low, right? Progesterone or XN GABA receptors, which is a positive it's a positive allosteric modulator of the GABA A receptor, which is fancy speak for anxiolytic or anti-anxiety, right? So if all of our neurons are diverting to our amygdala, if we're just in this fight or flight state, then we don't have room for love or feeling good emotions towards anybody. You're always in this fight or flight state, and that's what low progesterone does, right? Or there's a derivative or a metabolite of DHT that also does that, right? So low progesterone and low testosterone will create this hyper fight or flight state, and then cortisol goes up. What we're going to see here is testosterone actually regulates cortisol and brings the transcription of cortisol down. It's a buffer to cortisol. That's what right here, the cortisol shift. So testosterone acts as a buffer against cortisol, the primary stress hormone. Right? So low testosterone, low dopamine, low estrogen, low serotonin. Estrogen also slows down COMT and MAOI, which those break down the other catecholamines, norepinephrine and epinephrine, right? So if we're breaking down all of our catecholamines too fast, then we don't have, again, no dopamine. None of these neurotransmitters are in there. It just, as we can see, it causes problems. Cortisol. Okay, and then what we'll get into here again is what I just said, that testosterone and estrogen increase the receptors for oxytocin. So you can receive more oxytocin. All of this just comes together. We can see why it's important to have your hormones in order for these feelings of feeling good about your current situation, dopamine, and the feeling oxytocin, the feeling of love, right?
Sure.
Yeah,
Let's read a
absolutely.
couple more of those comments, and we can read those comments in light of the information we just received.
Yeah, you got it. I
think just a few under the one you just read. The one you just read.
I got it.
But as we can go back over it too. Like, she called it the niceness medicine, right?
Yeah, right here. Let's see.
You could tell her behavior changed when her hormones were low. You'd be like, "Hey, do you want?" And this is also PMS, right? We hit the night, like when your hormones are all in the gutter, people are irritable and they kind of lash out, and so like men just start to know when females are on their cycle, and this is the kind of things that it does. It makes you irritable.
This one here, I'm going to give my husband estrogen so he finally realizes how freaking hilarious I am. Niceness medicine. Yes, 1000%. When I mix, when the mix is off, I'm literally thinking about divorce.
Yeah.
And
right.
when it's on, I'm back to being happy to be married to my imperfect best friend. We joke about it now. He checks in to see on a scale of 1 to 10 how much I want to kill him. I suspect my estrogen was too high recently, and I was miserable, just an emotional mess. I was thinking of ways to just leave. Then I switched to gel, took a week or so of lower doses, and now I'm back to a reasonable, sane person who is and generally loves her life. It's wild.
Yeah, this is a good illustration about how it's not just about, again, just the decision to use the hormones, or it's not just about the hormone just giving you, it's about, it has to be in a harmonious balance with all the other hormones, right? So if we just give you a whole bunch of estrogen, then look, this female was still feeling miserable. It's not about just the one hormone. It's about balancing it with the other hormones. And it can be complex. This is why you come to a professional like
That's where the art of it all is.
Yeah, to balance everything properly and understanding how to do that.
Right.
So,
right.
So too much or too little can cause problems.
Sure.
From Time Fig Zero here. This is exactly my experience. Next one. Oh my God, I feel the exact same. I love my husband to bits, but in my head, we're either functioning well, or I'm thinking he's an asshole. Divorce now. I love when you say the mix is off. That resonates. And it's so hard to know what's off. Estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, the moon.
Yeah, is the moon
Yeah,
in the
right.
wrong place? This
And then
next
this one here, this is so real. I had been on 0.75, excuse me, estrogen patch for
Too
a
small.
year.
Too small.
And then a couple of months, I was considering divorce from my truly lovable, kind, thoughtful husband. I even rationally knew it wasn't him. It wasn't me, it was me, but I couldn't stand him. Everything he said made me want to throat punch him. Oh my gosh. Then I had a random thought that maybe I need to bump my estrogen. Within a week's time, that feeling vanished. So wild. This made me laugh. Thanks. So true. Hope you didn't admit any of this to him, though.
I mean, you imagine that much of a fluctuation just from
It's crazy. Yeah.
bumping your estrogen dose up. Like, it's just,
That is wild.
I mean, so Bill, hearing all of this and going back over all the cases you've seen, how many of the people now are you thinking, you know what, I really should have suggested hormone replacement therapy for that couple?
Yeah, it changed my mind, or not even changed it, just made me aware of something that I wasn't aware of.
Yeah.
And, yeah. And I don't know if I could get away with it at the clinic, but in my private practice, for sure, I would, because, it's the clinic is the clinic. It's, the Western way to go, even though they have someone like me there. I don't know where they would be in terms of that, but certainly would send them your way for sure.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
All right.
Love it.
Well, I think we're about to be wrapping it up here. I'm going to be passing this off on the final remarks, unless you guys have any questions you want to drop them real quick. That was going to be all topics Q&A. And next week we have who do we have coming on next week?
Damien,
No
right?
Wig, right? Yeah, no Wig, isn't it?
Yeah, I think
Let's
so.
pull up. Let me pull up the schedule here, guys. I'm sorry. Next week is no week, and then the following week we do have Damien, I believe, and then we have Dr. T, or is it Dr. T after no week?
I don't know.
That's a good question, right? I gotta find out.
We'll figure it out.
I'll
Did
let
you have
know.
any other comments on all of this, Bill?
No, man, I just, it's been great hanging out with you guys, and
There we go.
I learned so much with you being on my podcast, and I've learned even more being on yours tonight, and reading all those Reddit posts, man, just kind of nailed it and really solidified.
We did a different post a long time ago. It was probably over a year ago now.
Yeah, it was.
It was on this kind of same topic. That's why because after I did your podcast, I said let's do that again because it was a great topic.
Yeah, it was a fun show.
And now we can have Bill come in and kind of interject his thoughts on all this. But we had a whole bunch of different posts. It was completely different posts saying the same things, right?
Yeah.
So it's like it's really pervasive when you really look at it. There's millions of people out there who have experienced this type of thing, and it's important to educate people with it, make people aware that this can really be that helpful.
And I'm going to take in what you said. I think if to even maximize your relationship is do both. Get support. Do the SRT, get support elsewhere, whether it's coach, therapy, men's group. Getting that support with other guys, it's really important. So, yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. It was really a pleasure to have you on tonight. And of course, all Bill's links are going to be in the description box, guys. I wanted to clarify what we have coming up for the next couple weeks. On the 3rd of February, we do have Damien Nowak coming on to talk about immunoassay, LCMS labs, oxandrolone, SHBG. Going to be a great show. And then following that, we have on the 10th of February, we have Dr. Tramontana, PhD, to talk about psychology and hormones. That's going to be a fun show as well. So I guess that is about it, guys. I will say thank you again, everybody, for coming out. Bill, always a pleasure always a pleasure. First pleasure. Hopefully we'll have more pleasures down the road.
Anytime, man. You guys are fun. I love being
awesome. Thank you for coming out. And Ryan, great seeing you. Everybody have a great week, a wonderful weekend. And if you guys have any parting words, please do, and we'll call it a night.
No, that's it, Bill. It was great talking to you as always. A lot of lot of great information, and yeah, well, I mean, this is an important topic, so we'll definitely. I'd like to have the conversation again in the future.
Sure.
And it's great seeing everybody in the comments. Talking to everybody is what makes this show. So it was great. Eric did a great job setting up this show too. Those were some great posts. I think we really got our point across in a good way.
Yeah.
And Bill,
it's awesome to see how many, like, when they make a post, how many people agree.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, it's wild.
And, yeah, Bill, I'd be more than happy to talk to you and your wife if you want to get into some hormone replacement therapy. We could definitely help you out.
Yeah, I'll talk it over with her, and definitely want to just get some more clarity on it and information.
Yeah, like I tell everybody, the first step is just let's get some blood work and then talk about it. And it doesn't have to come to a commitment. It can just be like, here's what I see in your blood work, and you know, if it can stop there if you want. Like I don't like to say that, you know, a lot of people get scared about, you know, making a commitment, but it's more about, let's just, again, get blood work and talk about it, and that's it.
Yeah, it's information. And what do you do with that information? Yeah. Good stuff, man. Yeah, I'll definitely be following up.
Okay.
All right. Excellent. All right, everybody, we thank you again. We'll see you next week, Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 4 p.m. Pacific, only here at Go H4M. We'll see you next week. Have a good night.